So I'm the coordinator of counseling. I'm the only clinician on campus. And so we do provide free mental health services for all actively enrolled students. That includes full-time, part-time, and dual credit students as well. So they can come in up to once a week and do some short-term solution-focused therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. A lot of students come in and they struggle with depression, anxiety. They may have trouble adjusting to college, testing anxiety, but a lot of them have suicidal thoughts and they struggle with suicidal thoughts. So over the summer, about 50% of the students that came in were struggling with suicidal thoughts.
So 50% of the students that you saw were struggling with suicidal thoughts. Yeah. Is this a rise from what you have seen?
Yes, it's very prevalent in our society. We think that about 5% of adults, 20% of high school students, and 13% of college students nationwide are struggling with suicidal thoughts in the past year. Self-care is really important. It's one of the first things that we learn before we go into therapy. It's important to be able to manage our own feelings and just to go into listening mode, active listening mode, and sit and listen. It's important to do brave listening, and that means that you don't jump in and try to offer advice or change the subject because you're feeling uncomfortable. You just let them speak and share their story. To jump in and offer advice and solutions is considered an empathy blocker. And so it can feel very dismissive. It's done with good intentions, but it can feel very dismissive to the person that is experiencing suicidal thoughts or mental health struggles. There are certain groups that are at higher risk for suicide. Males are actually 5 times more likely to die by suicide than females. Females are more likely to attempt suicide, but males are more likely to actually die by suicide. There are some groups that are at elevated risk, including the elderly, veterans, as well as people that live in rural areas, which we have a lot of here in East Texas, and people in the LGBTQ community. We should learn the warning signs of suicide. We should learn what questions to ask and how to respond in the moment. And we should learn what community resources are available to help if there's a mental health emergency. People may not come out and say that they are suicidal. They may not use that word. They may say things like, I wish I could go to sleep and never wake up, or I feel like a burden to my family and they would be better off without me. You might see someone searching on the internet about suicide or methods of suicide, or they may start taking steps to give away their belongings. They may feel hopeless and say, my situation's never going to get better. There's just no way that this is ever going to improve. There's no point in going on and living. They might suddenly become really isolated and withdrawn and stop doing the things that are important to them. They may increase use of drugs or alcohol as a means to try to escape. And so if you notice these signs in someone that you love, it's really important to ask. A good way to do that is to say, hey, I've noticed that you've been sleeping more lately, or you've been crying a lot lately, or you've been searching the internet for suicide. I'm concerned about you. Can we talk? I'm here to listen. And then you just let them say what they're going to say, and then you follow up with some direct questions. Are you thinking of ending your life? Are you thinking about suicide? And if they say yes, you want to follow up with more questions to see if they've thought through the details. So do you have a plan? Do you have access to what you need? Have you thought about when you would do this? Because the more details they've thought through, the more likely this is going to become an imminent risk situation that you're going to need to involve first responders. Okay, so there is a non-clinical tool. It's called the Columbia Protocol, and you can find that online. There's also an app that you can download for your phone, and it gives you 6 questions that you can ask, and these questions have been very carefully researched and worded. And if you just ask the questions and they give the response, it's color-coded, and it will actually help you decide what you need to do next and if this is an emergency or not. So you can go and download that app or download that form and keep that with you.
Sure, yeah. and looking at, college students in particular and everything, have you, your team, counseling people, been able to identify possible reasons that there's more of an uptake in suicidal thoughts? Is there things that can be attributed for some of the reasons?
Yeah. A lot of our college students are struggling with social isolation and social anxiety, and I think that has been on the increase since the COVID pandemic and all of the changes that took place then. So it's just a lot of people come here and they don't know how to make friends, they don't know how to make connections, they don't know anybody. College students in particular have a lot of stressors. They're juggling with financial worries, their class schedule, their job schedule, their social life. Some of them are parents. And so they have a lot of pressures on them. Their risk actually increases if they've just experienced a major life stressor like a death in the family, a job loss, especially if they know someone who has died by suicide. Their risk of suicide goes up for them. Well, I think a lot of people are afraid to ask, and they're afraid that it's going to plant that suggestion into the person's mind if they hadn't thought of it before. And so it's important to know that that is a misconception. That is not true. I think a lot of people are also afraid to ask because they're afraid of what the answer is going to be. And they're afraid if they say yes, they're not going to know what to do. So September is a good time to educate yourself about what the options are. 988 is a great resource. It's our national suicide and crisis lifeline. It's free. They have call centers here in Texas. There are trained crisis counselors that answer, that can help you and can do a suicide assessment and know and tell you what the next steps should be for that person. You can also contact your local mental health authority, Community Health Corps, Andrews Center, Access. They have crisis hotlines and mobile crisis outreach teams that can actually go out in the community and meet with people wherever they are, in their home, in their school, in their workplace, and do that suicide assessment. And they can determine what steps need to be taken. Some people might need inpatient treatment, but a lot of people can stay in their home under a safety plan and with lethal means removed from that environment. Maybe they stay with friends or family, and they can help them get connected with a local mental health provider so they can start getting the help and support they need to move forward.
Sure. Yeah. And my last question here is for you personally and for what you've seen, after, a little bit of talking and a little bit of care and a little bit of hope afterwards, how have you been able to see personally the students that are changed in a positive direction?
Yeah. So, if people forget everything that we've talked about today and they just don't know what to do, it's really important to know that basic human kindness can make a huge difference in someone's life. People that are going through mental health struggles and suicidal thoughts feel really isolated and they feel invisible. So just having someone reach out to them can make a big difference and can actually take enough air out of the balloon before it pops.